if you've got the most efficient starting lineup in the NBA,
right,
there's one question and one question to ask only. Why the hell would you change it? Why? Give me a reason why you would do that without using the words Chris Paul's ego.
Well, it doesn't have to do with his ego. Maybe he plays better as a starter.
Okay.
We've never seen him as a reserve. Maybe Chris Paul, put the ego aside. That's a word that you're attaching to it. I don't think that Chris Paul has ever said, I need to start because of my ego.
I think you coaching has plenty of ego dripping off of it as an initial response to question one. I mean,
and what was question one? Because I was off that week.
The question from Kendra was, what are your thoughts on, I don't have the exact wording, but potentially coming off the bench?
Right.
You coaching? I mean, come on, man.
Great response.
It's dripping with ego.
It's dripping with sarcasm, for sure.
I'm trying to figure out why. Let's get Tim Kawakami in here, The Athletic, the pod with Steve Kerr this week. Fantastic work, as always, Tim. It's wonderful to have you. That's really what I want to ask when it comes to this whole starting lineup question, because I do think it matters. If you've got what is, by rating, the best lineup in the NBA, why would you change it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It certainly makes statistical logic. It's, Chris Paul, nearing the end of his career, does not need to be playing 35 minutes a game anyway, and doesn't, size. If you're removing Looney, let's say it's Looney from the starting lineup, you get real small. They're small already. Like Clay Thompson, I guess, would be the other option, and it leaves, a large wing you're taking out. It makes all sense. I just think what the Warriors are saying is Chris Paul needs to see it, and he deserves the respect of seeing it before anything is imposed upon him, and then they hope not to impose it on him. They hope that he comes to that conclusion along with the rest of them, and that involves Steph Curry, Draymond Green, all of them. I think what the Warriors are hoping and believing, and this is really the Warriors' way, is it's all kind of agreed to. You see it on the court. Look, you could have more energy running that second unit. Maybe you close some games with Steph and Clay. Maybe you don't, but get the feel of this before we're going to put a Hall of Famer on the bench for the first time. That's how Steve Kerr does stuff. And, you could just hear it when he was talking to me. I could feel it. I knew that was the way they were going to approach it. No, we'll see what Chris Paul says about all this, and maybe he doesn't agree, but it makes sense. The lineup makes sense with the starting five from last year. That is statistically a tremendous starting five. Makes sense and positionally and all the things they do, and then have Chris Paul be coming right off that bench with the, whatever 6-minute mark at the first quarter, lead the second unit into the second quarter, and then you see what the best group is from there. And I just think they're just counting on their respect. It just a little bit reminds me of the Andrew Wiggins, vaccination question. Wish I thought about that when I wrote this. Is he was adamant that he was not going to take the shot, did not want to take the shot, but he knew that to play he had to take it. His teammates didn't badger him. Nobody publicly said this guy has to take the shot because we need him playing. They just supported him. Whatever decision he has to make, everyone will see it. Guess what happened? Andrew Wiggins took the shot and helped him win a championship that season. I think it's a similar sort of thing with Chris Paul, someone who deserves respect, someone who clearly does not want things imposed upon him, has done a lot of great things in his career, could do some more great things for the Warriors. Let him see it before anyone dictates it to him. And I think everyone knows what the logical result's going to be. Let's see what happens, after 10 practices in training camp.
Does the Chris Paul problem, though, rear its head in other ways in terms of him being a negative defender on a team that already has a couple of negative defenders in the backcourt?
I don't know if he's, we'll see. I don't think he's a great defender anymore, but he's okay. I mean, he used to be very good. So he's a tough guy. They can use more tough guys. Maybe he's not going to get in the stance and stay in front of John Morant for 40 minutes, but I don't think they're going to ask that of him. He's smaller, that's for sure, but he's tough. I mean, he can hold his own in a lot of situations. I don't think they're looking at him. Hey, listen, he's a defensive upgrade over the guy who's replacing Jordan Poole, a big defensive upgrade over Jordan Poole. I think they're looking at like that 25 minutes a game, maybe 30, maybe sometimes 18. But I don't think he's going to be a negative for them necessarily defensively. Maybe in the matchups of the size, but not like in the will and the toughness. I think they like the toughness part of it, actually. Someone in there swipe at the ball, knock somebody over in a loose ball situation. Chris Paul can do that stuff. Just doesn't need to do it 35 minutes a game. And again, if you want to cut down on the minutes, I don't know that Chris Paul wants to cut down on the minutes, but if you do want to do that for a 38-year-old who you want at his best in the playoffs, remember, this guy's gotten hurt in the playoffs the last several years. If you want, fresher legs in the playoffs, drop him to 26 minutes a game, have him play hard for those 26 minutes, feel accomplished for doing it, and then maybe he's at his best and playing more minutes, playing harder, playing tougher into the postseason.
Tim Kawakami, The Athletic, with us, Willard and Dibs. Okay, Tim, the emotion from the Giants fan base, well documented. We can all feel it right now. I know they've been given the vote of confidence. I keep feeling like it's only like 90% chance, though, that Farhan and Gabe are back. What do you think? What do you think happens there?
I think it's wavering, and I don't think it really was a vote of confidence. And I don't want to parse Greg Johnson's statement, the Susan Slusser, but he was like, yeah, you know what? I mean, the time has passed, and where Farhan's contract now that's guaranteed for next season, and Gabe Kapler has a contract for next season, so they'll be here. I think that was a naive statement to make. That doesn't mean they're going to be there. It means that they're contracted to be there, but you can make a change on that. And I think it's still a very strong possibility that both go in there, but I think they also, Giants ownership, maybe some other people who in that ownership other than Greg Johnson, whose voices matter, might think that going through another year like this could be a real problem. And unless they see a real dramatic way that gets a star in there, it improves the dynamic of the clubhouse and the team on the field, I would not. If I'm part of that group, I would not suggest bringing both back. Maybe you ask Farhan if there's another manager out there that he could go with. Maybe you talk about a long-term plan from here. Now that's 5 years into Farhan Zaidi's tenure. This is tough to say. Okay, we need another 5-year plan, but I think he's really smart. I think some things he's done haven't worked. Some things he's done have worked. I kind of want to hear a new vision there and a new idea where they're going to go. I think that has to be decided. And I think, again, it's naive for the chairman of the team to say for sure they're going to be back, but I don't think it's for sure. I wrote it like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks or whatever. I probably caused that statement as I joke. Like I might have guaranteed Zaidi and Kapler to be back. Giants fans can blame me because I think he made a statement to debunk some of the things I was saying. But from the people I talk to who don't speak as chairman but are still have influence, I don't think this has been decided. I don't think it should have been decided by now. You need to know how are they going to get that great player or two. How are they going to maybe change the mood in the clubhouse? How are they going to make sure they're not this boring and this bland? I need to hear it. And I'm sorry, Greg Johnson's statement does not convince me that that's guaranteed.
Which is the bigger problem then, Tim? Is it a flawed, dull roster, or is it a manager who has had a clubhouse kind of get away from him?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think you can pin it on Kapler. I mean, again, it's an element of it. It's an easy thing, just say fire the man. I mean, listen, it was a great clubhouse when they won 107 games. It's just different when you don't win. There is a timetable to this, right? I mean, you get to the end of his fourth year, maybe you could use a new voice. That's just a time thing. I don't think he's done a bad job. I just think the combination of Zaidi and Kapler is wearing on kind of the situation. It feels kind of, a little stale, right? Just from the outside. It feels like it's not going anywhere. If anything, it might be going backwards. That's just a perception. They might have this great idea. They do have a bunch of young players who they all debuted. Some of them look better than others. I think that was a positive. I think, this roster is lax, though. So I would say the bigger picture is on Zaidi. I do. I think he's the guy the ownership prefers of those two, and I would agree with them. I think he's just a really brilliant guy. It just hasn't all worked out. If I'm them, I say, Farhan, what can we do better at manager and give us another plan for getting us some better players? I want to hear you. I would not do it the other way. I would not say, Gabe Kapler, you're the first person we retain, and what's the plan from here? I would do it the other way. And if Farhan Zaidi gives me a plan that involves Gabe Kapler remaining as manager, but also all these other things are answered, maybe you continue down that path. I just don't think you can say it right now that that's the path. I can't believe that's what ownership can say. You know what? Let's get 24,000 every game at Oracle Park. Maybe it's 16,000 later in the season when all hope is lost. I just can't see that being the right thing to say right now. Again, I'll just go back, and again, I just don't think it's smart for a CEO to declare that two guys in their ending their fourth and fifth years are exactly what everyone wants to see next year. I need to know I need different answers than they've been given. I think they're capable of giving them, but I don't think they've given them yet.
Yeah, there's only one person we know is going to be here a couple years from now, and that's Logan Webb. Tim Kawakami with us. What do you think Logan meant the other day? Big changes. Who's he pointing at?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything specific. Maybe it's something specific. I don't know. I know Logan a little bit, but not that well. I think it's just not do the exact same thing that they've been doing. I think that was his point. I don't think he was saying fire the manager, fire the general manager. I just don't think that's Logan's style. But I just think he wanted to make sure that this is not what they're going to live with. This is not tolerated in his mind, or shouldn't be tolerated in the clubhouse. I think it might be a few players that several of the top guys wouldn't mind moving on from, but that's not up to them. I just think it needs to be different, means do something, and not little. Let's again, it's the same thing I think I'm saying. Let's see a plan. Let's see where we're not given 400 plate appearances to a pure platoon, a fat platoon designated hitter. Let's see a plan where a superstar would want to join this. Let's see a plan for, not as many, really mediocre platoons where it's not just 3 openers and 2 starters. Again, I don't think that's how they started the season. It's where they ended it, or at least the bulk of it. Give us a broader idea. Let's not get through stuff. A lot of it's been incremental. I get it. You can really improve a team by making 1% better moves every day, and we know Farhan is really good at that. This is beyond that now. You need to get 20% better. You need to get 30% better.
Yeah.
And that happens when you make the big ball move. I know they've tried to do them. I don't blame them for a lot of this, but eventually you got to do something. You got to get the 49ers are good because they got superstars. The Warriors are good because they got superstars. They found a way to get them. The Giants have been through this for a year, and this regime is not new and has not figured out a way to get them. At some point, you're accountable for that. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. I don't know exactly when Greg Johnson and the other people in the ownership group are going to decide that's enough. I need to see, though, a line to it. And, again, I think the important people in that clubhouse want to see it, too.
Yeah, you mentioned making big, bold moves. The Niners tried it and failed with Trey Lance, but they wound up with Brock Purdy, so everything's okay. How do we categorize what we see with Brock Purdy, Tim?
I just think he's a good quarterback. I mean, I thought it last year. It wasn't the full representation of what he's going to be as an NFL quarterback. I think saw him in a lot of tough situations. He makes plays. He's not your big physical Josh Allen. He's not going to run around like Lamar Jackson. You can see some limitations physically, but I just think he does everything a good quarterback has to do. I mean, as I say when people criticize him, can you have him just put up one bad game before you criticize him? Like, he has not had a bad game in the NFL. Like, literally, not had a bad game in the NFL. Other games have been better than others. Is there a moment when, if it's hit head-to-head with Tua or Mahomes, could he come up lacking? I guess that's certainly possible. That moment hasn't happened. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they almost won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Possibly could have won another one with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's good enough, and I think he might be very good. I think he already might be top 15 right now. 23 years old, has won every game he's ever started and finished, and I don't know when this is going to end because I think he's pretty good. He makes the quick decisions. He helps. We all know Kyle calls a different game with him than he did with Jimmy, right? You just see it. Going forward on 4th down, opening up the playbook, not kind of coaching defensively for the quarterback, coaching offense, ready to attack with the quarterback. All these things. I don't think he's a great quarterback. We'll see what the ceiling is for him. But, man, you look around, and we all, I think, watched a lot of games on the weekend with the 49ers not playing. I didn't see a lot of quarterbacks that I would take over him. I mean, there's 6 or 7 or 9, but there's not 15 that I would take over him. No way. And he's better than, Jimmy Garoppolo and the Raiders. I'll take Brock Purdy in a second. And we can go down the line. That's a pretty good spot to be in when you're 23 years old, I'd say. And for the 49ers to have him at $800,000 or whatever and $850 next year, this is a really nice spot for them to have at quarterback after the years of trying to figure out what they got. I think they know what they got now.
Great work, my man. Always wonderful to have your perspective on all this. Thank you so much.
You got it, guys.
Okay, there it is. Tim Kawakami, The Athletic.